All right. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome to the Women's Wellness Network. We sort of hijacked my mentor's interview. So I'm the lucky one here. We're the lucky ones here. Thank you so much, Les Albrecht, for joining us here today on the Women's Wellness Network. How are you doing?
Great. Thank you. And thank you for the invitation. Pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. I'm so glad you came. Okay, first off, why don't you tell everybody where you are in the world?
I live in Vancouver on the North Shore, and I immigrated from South Africa about 5.5 years ago.
Wonderful. I love that whole area. I grew up there in the Fraser Valley, so it has a piece of my heart. And I'm sure you're not having snow today like I am here in Ontario.
Oh no. It's a lovely day, overcast but lovely, but warmer than snow weather. Yeah.
Yep. Beautiful. Beautiful. So how long ago did you come to Canada?
5.5 years ago.
Nice. Nice.
Yes.
Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about what it is that you do in the world?
I teach breath work and exercise to people literally that you are so linked that you one has to look at the body first and see where you can go and how you can release the breath. So movement is always involved there. And my main focus is on teaching people to breathe out. I don't believe that we breathe out efficiently. We're always struggling to increase lung capacity. Most people are focused on that. And I feel we need to learn how to breathe out because that's the only way that I've managed to increase my breath capacity. And of course, with the people I work with, the same story.
Right. It makes sense because we have all that old air in there. We want to get it out. There's no point in keeping it in there if it's already spent. So that makes perfect sense.
Yes, yes.
And then you
So,
have, oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah. Yeah. So just apropos your remark about getting the breath out, so many of us are living in, we've come out of stressful COVID times, and we have this habitual stress that's staying with us. And one of the stresses is literally holding ourselves together physically, whether it's clamping your jaw, locking your neck, bracing your shoulders, where your belly, your ribs, your buttock muscles, your thighs, you're crunching your toes. We all have some kind of habitual stress going on that we might not be aware of. And all of that shuts down our ability to inhale. And I think the only way to get rid of that is to learn. Well, I've found the only way to get rid of that is to learn to exhale. If you don't have anything to let go and you're locked in muscle tension in the body, you really have to, in a way, bounce the ball so that it springs free. That's one way I can put it simply.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. And I know what you mean about holding our breath and not, being tense all the time. Yeah, your lungs just don't work properly if you can't, if your body's not moving. So the marrying of the exercise with the breathing is perfect.
Yes, the thing about it is that we have so many muscles that we've been traditionally told are important when we breathe in and out. And there's a whole bunch of muscles we don't even think about, especially working with the back. If you look at older people, a lot of them are hunched over.
Mhm.
And now look at the younger people too. They're also a global nation of hunchers.
Oh,
And if you think of how many muscles there are in the back that can actually expand and contract, we forget about those. We think primarily of what's going on in the front of our bodies, or maybe diaphragmatic breathing, which is not going to really make that much difference. So in terms of getting breath out, it's quite difficult to exhale simply using traditional muscles that we're used to. You can't, something, Tammy, that really bothered me is bothers me, and this started once one of the key steps in my journey was I taught yoga for over 20 years as well. When you're a dance teacher, you look at everything. You know, teaching your dancers, the love of teaching dance puts food on the table, but it doesn't necessarily pay the rent. So you teach exercise people in the morning, you teach anything that you can get your hands on. And I taught yoga for over 20 years. And when I gave up teaching yoga, I was really more involved in doing physio referrals because I was just overloaded by my physios in my hometown. And I decided I had to make a choice. So I needed some release. I went to yoga classes. And the things that they traditionally tell you is to, let's take a deep breath in at the beginning of class and let's release. And I never felt relaxed. And I couldn't understand why until it took me back to something that had happened during rehearsal time when I had a very large studio and we were preparing for an onstage performance. And I landed up being taken off to the emergency room with a panic attack.
Oh, no.
And the same feeling, obviously to a lesser degree, always seemed to crop back in my mind when I took that deep breath in at the beginning of yoga class. And that was one of the rabbit holes that I traveled down. When you take a deep breath in like that, and you're not particularly relaxed, or you've just had a busy day, there's a chance you could trigger your flight or fight response. And that is what I was doing. So for me, that definitely doesn't work. And I think we're just so trained into, when we go to a yoga class or someone sees that you're stressed, just take a deep breath in. In fact, if you just breathe out, it's really going to do a lot more good than breathing in before you breathe out. I hope that makes sense to you.
Yeah, actually that does make sense. Logically, that makes sense to me. I've had moments, those moments where you feel like you can't even breathe in anymore. It's not working. But to remember to breathe out, now I never even thought of that.
Yes, and I remember being in the emergency room and going, just give me a chance. I'll get a bit more breath in. I'll be okay. And it just didn't work. And with only medication that took me down, and took my panic away. And then through the years, I realized that we have so much. We have something called the carbon discharge rate, which is really an important thing. So we need a balance of carbon dioxide and oxygen in our lungs. And when we are distressed or anxious, that rate there's an imbalance in that rate. And you can we feel for sometimes, many of us, especially women, simply because we have so much to cope with in life. And we become slightly fearful and anxious. So we unwittingly don't exhale fully. And we cause carbon oxygen imbalance. We cause an oxygen carbon imbalance. So one is supposed to be able to breathe out, take a breath in, and then breathe out slowly for 50 counts. That's your ideal. Yeah, and that really is, and I work with this with my clients all the time. And you have 3 shots at it. The first one usually is them trying too hard, and you might get a reading of about 21, 23. When they release and they realize, you don't have to get, my big mantra is, please, I want a D- on your report card. I don't want an A+. And I kind of hammer that home. And once they realize that, so they take that on board, we get to 29, 30, and I've built people to 50 counts of and we can all get there. You just have to learn to breathe out efficiently, and I'm really believe in positive thinking, believe that you can do this. So that for me is that really was a game changer, realizing that you can actually get to this amazing level. I've actually got a couple of clients who weigh over a minute and a bit, And the big thing again is don't try too hard. This is not a competition with anybody, not even yourself. So you will get there, just take it easy and you will build it. You've got to build that ability. So yeah, and that all started from learning to breathe out.
Right. Do you notice, is it more women or more men? Do you have is there a ratio to that? Or is it just everybody?
I think it's everybody, but the men react differently.
Oh,
The men react differently. Yes, it's that kind of gung-ho. I worked with a lot of sportsmen and runners and cyclists. And then I did become, I had a friend who had a prostate up, and he was young and he came to me, he was worried about ED. So I had no idea what to do. So I just kind of used what I would use with my female incontinence patients. And so I did the same thing with him, and his surgeon was really quite impressed with the work that he'd done, because he said to him, the only thing you can possibly do is to strengthen your pelvic floor prior. You know, we as women, we're used to this. We always, people are battling all the time with their pelvic floor strength. And so I thought, okay, well, let's give it a go. And his surgeon was really impressed. So I thought, okay. And then I suddenly got a lot more calls. I kind of became the go-to girl for help after prostate ops. And then cyclists came to me, runners came to me, and males, and they're completely different. When it comes to breath work, they are more focused on getting breath in, and I had to work carefully with them, but they seem to be able to reach the 50 mark more easily. The way they deal with stress is different. I think women, we have this kind of ongoing little blip of stress. We have so many little things. We have the big things, and then, oh, did I put this little thing in for lunch for my child? Or I must remember to do the. Men are able to kind of focus differently. So if that helps, the focus is different.
Oh, well, that's very interesting. I mean, the first thing in my mind was, oh, maybe they have bigger lungs. But generally, we're probably quite similar on the inside.
Yeah, they do. They do try and take in bigger breaths, and then once I bring them down to the D minus, mantra, then and they do get there quicker.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I heard you mention incontinence too. So you can help women with that.
Yes, I do. I work with them. I teach something called the vagina workout, which with female incontinence, it's most women who have tight pelvis. Okay, let me rephrase that. Sorry. They've found now that women are more hypertonic than hyper. Okay, so there's a lot more tightness, and breath work is really the key, because you have three diaphragms. You have a laryngeal diaphragm, you have a thoracic diaphragm in your rib cage, and then you have your pelvic diaphragm. When you breathe in, every single bone in the trunk should move, and lower down and out to your extremities, so arms and right down to your feet.
Wow.
And you can move them all, especially once you learn to exhale properly. It's quite amazing how you can actually see the hips move when people are lying on the floor breathing, when they are releasing and they're exhaling properly. You can command all your muscles to work. So once you get that going and you learn how to bring in the breath work with the vagina contraction, because the vagina is just a rubber tube. It's just a muscular tube. And if you can contract it and work on it very, very gently, I teach a whole series of how to activate mentally and physically. You have to use your mind. You can't just stand and, do mindless. I say to people when I teach a workshop, we're not going to do mindless stuff. You're going to find it using your brain, and it's amazing how it works. And then you're going to command your muscles to work, which which really comes into play when working with the vagina, because you contract at a 2% contraction, which is, it really requires mind work. And that's really very successful, and works particularly well with women who are runners and who exercise a lot, because when you see that woman powering up a hill, that runner running past you and powering up the hill, you know she's going to put pressure on the pelvic diaphragm, and there's a big chance she's going to leak.
Oh.
And this is right from the age of 18 upwards. I mean, it's chronic. So learning to switch on your brain to bring that vaginal contraction so that you switch on those pelvic muscles when you want to power up the hill, just used as a simple example. It's such an invaluable little tool, especially like, say, for instance, me speaking to you now. I'm quite an anxious type of person, just my personality. And, you know, it's so good to have that little tool when you need it, when you can bring it in, or when we laugh so much that we're going to pee in our pants, you can control it. But it's it's a simple little tool. I've actually got a runner on the North Shore who has told me, she said, I use it all the time, Les. It's fantastic. So, you know, and some of the things that didn't work for her were the standard pelvic floor exercises. It's such a minefield, female incontinence, because there's no one size fits all. That is the one thing that I've found, and I've worked with hundreds of women every way which, and then no one size fits all.
Right. Well, the whole thing just sounds so empowering, like just being able to be in control of all those things, your breath, your urine, like,
yes,
right?
yes.
It's like, that's pretty important, especially in some moments. It's way more important than others, both the breathing and the peeing.
Absolutely. And of course, it also affects your pooping. I mean, so the breath work is for me, that's the thing that I'm actually currently writing, Breathe Out, and the reason why you need to learn to breathe out. And I've just focused on that because it covers literally everything. There's so many little tributaries, like a river overflowing and having 1,000 little offshoots. And that for me is why I've kind of, and no matter what I do, Tammy, it just keeps kind of thudding back to it. This is what you have to do, Les. It just, I'm sort of pulled into line weekly. Keep this going.
Right.
And I've veered off plenty of times, run up plenty of different hills and down other rabbit holes. And for me, breath work, exhale is the key to our anxiety.
That's amazing. I'm really gonna have to like start remembering this, because it's something that I never really thought about before. I love this channel. Women's Wellness Network. I love this channel. I'm learning so many things. It's so great. Wow. Yeah. Like, seriously, I never would have connected breathing to the lower body functions. Like, not in one moment did I ever think of that. Relaxation, sure. A painful area, like breathing into that painful area. Yes. But not the other part. Les, I'm so glad you're here.
I'm so glad I could spread the word.
Oh, that's so great. Well, see, this conversation was actually really not meant for Amos. It was meant for you and I. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. So if somebody comes to you, what kind of, like, how long on average does it take a person to, kind of get to that 50 mark or somewhere close, or, where they're really starting to feel like they're making a difference in their body?
I think probably at least three sessions working with someone, at least the first 3 sessions. To sometimes people might come in, they might think that they're not just stressed. And I can see the stress is way beyond, and we all have habits.
Yeah.
Anyone who's listening to this right now, whether you like it or not, there's stress happening somewhere, whether it's toe clutching and we all have our favorite clutching spots, the diaphragm. Also this fixation about having a flat stomach.
Right.
And a six-pack. I really want to make that go away. I think every time I talk about it, I think my next book is going to be, I haven't even finished the first one, but my next book is going to be, I do not want a six-pack, exclamation mark. It is so damaging to the body, and it's a completely, it's different tissue, it's smooth tissue fiber, which shouldn't be used as a shunt muscle, the shunt muscle, clearing the bowel, shunt muscle. The six-pack muscle is not intended for that. So why are we working it like this? And people feel they have to hang on to that six-pack and walk using it. And once you learn to let it go, it takes a while, but your hips move differently because you're now freeing them up.
Okay.
And yeah, and I mean, I'm a great people watcher. And if you watch someone walking down the mall in front of you, or in a field, or on your walk outside, you'll see the hips, one hip, or you'll listen to the runner running past you, and you'll hear right, left, right, left, right, left. And you'll hear the impact is different. You know, there's a lot going on. They're clutching somewhere.
Right.
And the breath is incorrect. It's just so linked. The body works as a whole ecosystem. And so, you know, sometimes you'll come to me and I just want to learn this because I know I need to learn to breathe out, or I need to improve my breath work. But it's like undoing an onion. You know, you take the first layer off, and sometimes you'll think, oh, this client is going to be fine, and then you start unpeeling the onion, and there are so many layers. And some people might look tense and present with tense outer muscles, and the inner muscles might be not too bad, and then you'll find a little kernel at the inside of the onion. So it really depends, but I reckon within the first 3 lessons you can do a lot of work just to find out where you're going to go with this one.
Well, wow. When you said 3, I thought, okay, 3 months. I'm thinking it's not 3 years. That would be a long time, but I'm thinking 3 months. And you said 3 sessions. That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah, they are long. They're an hour and a half each to start. And then you can tame them back a little, you know. And also, you know, I work with mouth taping as well, and how to, because nasal breathing, nobody breathes nasally. And I think the shock, I have an online class which I've been teaching my South African clients. I still teach them. And online is a group of women who just don't want to give up. So, and what was really amazing was that I had one client who said to me, I never breathe through my mouth, ever. And then we mouth taped. And she said, I had no idea that I breathe through my mouth at all. And that is really important because from the time you're born, from the minute you're born, your vascular system starts to is impacted, obviously. If you mouth breathe, you're impacting your vascular system in a negative way. Because you have sinuses here and you have sinuses here. If you breathe up through your nasal passages and practice nasal breathing, first of all, you'll feel the coldness in the upper sinuses. And if you continue to breathe, you know, the time length that it takes you to actually get any kind of easing of that cold breath is quite it's a long time, and people kind of horrified. Why isn't it changing? It's because you're inside of your nasal passages, there's the heat, so much hotter than the air outside, and also because you're not used to it. And we also we produce nitric oxide, which is so important for our health. But we don't realize that if you're breathing in more through your mouth, you're never going to produce that. It's going to impact your vascular system. You're more than likely to land up with some kind of blood pressure imbalance as you age. I mean, I think the last figure I saw was 76% of all American adults suffer from blood pressure problems or need blood pressure medication. So that is really, really important. And how can you, it's really hard to balance your breathing and get nasal breathing going if you can't breathe out properly. So
Right.
it's, it's one leads into the other. It's these rabbit holes that just keep opening, and everybody's different.
Of course.
So, and that's nasal breathing is just so tied up with breath work. We don't even think about it. It's become a bit of a fad, see if you can, and it shouldn't be, because you really have to tread quite carefully with nasal breathing. You can't just go into it wham bam and let's tape our mouths at night, and you can cause more problems than. I have quite a few clients who have come to me that I work with still online, who have sleep apnea.
Oh, yeah.
And the exhale has really helped them. Learning to exhale, calm them down, help them. And also then slowly you can take them into nasal breathing, and then eventually into mouth taping. And also, of course, if we just think of what we women want, we don't want to age. We'd like to age gracefully. And of course, when we sit at a computer, the jaw just leans forward like a Neanderthal skeleton. And of course, when you nasal breathe, you get, your cheeks are lifted. These, yeah, you get lovely. Yeah, exactly. So, and people don't think about it, and young people don't think about it. I always call it the step. So if you look at the skeleton, there's a wonderful, I think it's a 1982 photograph from the UK branch of physiotherapy, and it's a skeleton sitting in front of a computer screen, and you can actually see the steps, and then the skull.
Oh,
The steps of the vertebrae actually slipping forward. I mean, it's no wonder that we can't breathe out, because those muscles need to work. So we're all at risk.
yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, especially, I mean, more often than not, we are in front of a computer screen these days. And yeah, to remember that, keep your chin back and make it like an aligned tube instead of a curved. That's even seems like it would be more effort to breathe when it's curved.
Yes, it is. It obviously is, because you shut down, you close the larynx. Think
Yeah.
about it, the diaphragm and the larynx. And a really amazing, simple thing you can do to see how your breath is impacted by your larynx is to, or your body, your posture rather is impacts your larynx, is to just stand on 2 feet, close your bite gently, like you would normally. Don't do anything particular, just close your teeth so you have a natural bite. Just feel your molars gently touching each other, and simply stand and move your body from side to side, maybe back on one heel, forward until the ball of the other foot, and just keep moving around. And you can actually feel your larynx diaphragm moving. We just don't think about that. We don't think. So if this diaphragm can be so impacted, how much more so is your thoracic diaphragm and your pelvic diaphragm? I mean, it's just, so what do we do to control? We clutch. Where do we clutch? The abrectus, and anything we possibly can brace and grip in the core, in the center of the body. I have a bit of a beef about people calling on the core all the time. The core is a very, very specific contraction, and it shouldn't really be more than 2%.
Mm.
People just go in and gung ho clutch the belly and think, oh gee, I must keep my core tight, and I've men coming up to me in class and saying, look how tight my core is. And I'm going, no, Jim, your core's not tight. Come on, you're going to work this better. You can't breathe holding like that. You know what guys are like about their six packs. And I had a really, a couple of really interesting cases in South Africa. I had a lot of young weight boys, you know, they want that six pack standing out. And the first young guy that I worked with had been sent by his physio, and he said, she wants you to loosen my six pack and I don't want you to. And I said to him, well, you're on your way to damaging a disc because you're 80% there. So we're going to see what we can do not to let this happen, because that'll be the end of this bulky body that you're looking for. And we breathed and we worked the core, which is basically the transverse abdominis muscle. And the minute you brace that beyond, you activate it beyond 2%, all the other guys come in. Your internal obliques, your external obliques, your intercostals, even your jaw will come in. So you want to be able to really focus on that. And we worked, and thank goodness to this day, he's still doing weights, he's doing fine, but he doesn't focus on bracing what he calls his core. So I'm sorry, I've just veered off topic, but it's really what I'm trying to get through is that we're bracing this midsection from here to down to the base of the pelvis and also quads. And we think that I'm really against bracing and exercise and people trying to breathe with movements. It's you need to learn to breathe through your movements.
Right. Well, maybe learning to breathe first is probably the better option.
Yeah.
You know, you think we're adults, you know, you'd probably work with younger people also, but
yes,
we've been breathing for many, many years, but we're not really breathing correctly. So if anybody would like to work with you, how can they find you?
They can find me on, I do have Les Albrecht at Instagram. I'm on as the Breath Queen. I don't post on it. I will be posting in the short future. I've been so busy trying to get things going that so it's Les Albrecht at Les Albrecht at Breath Queen.
Okay, that's cool.
On
We'll
Instagram,
put that in the comments too, so that people can make sure that they can find the correct Les.
Because, thank you. Thank you.
That's important. I think it's important. Yes, for sure. So ladies, if you would like to look at, she said all these things, right? All these things that are so important to our health and our well-being, because if we're feeling confident in ourselves and we're not going into panic because we're not breathing correctly, and we're not leaking urine because we're not breathing correctly, right? This is a lot of things that we can definitely do better for ourselves. And if we're not already doing them, then maybe Les is your girl. So I wanted to say thank you so much for coming on today, Les. It was so nice to have you and learn. Like I said, I keep learning all these things from this channel, and it's amazing. And wow, yeah, thank you so much for your information.
Thank you, Tammy, and thank you for having me on. It's just such a pleasure. I hope I haven't overloaded you. It's like, you know, you open the door slightly and then suddenly the wind blows it open full.
It's recorded, so we can always go back and watch it if we miss something or we think, oh, what did she say about that? Right? We can watch it again. The beauty. But make sure you're sitting up properly and you're not got your jaw forward and you're not breathing all crazy. Right? Anyway, thank you very much, Women's Wellness Network, for joining us today. And if you want to connect with Les, like I said, we'll put the information in the comments. And until next time, be well. And thank you so much, Les.
Thank you, Tammy.